a nonpartisan organization, they predicted that if the president's plan and Speaker Pelosi's plan comes to fruition, that is, if we have a so-called public option on the health care side, 120 million Americans are going to lose their private insurance coverage. And the fact is that those folks who have coverage, by and large, tend to be somewhat satisfied. Now, I'm not here telling you it's great, but by the same token, we've got to be careful of what we end up giving up. Now, in answer to the question or the Twitter comment, as it relates to insurance carriers, you're right. I mean, insurance carriers ought not to be able to cherry pick. Insurance companies ought not to be able to deny folks based on pre-existing conditions. I think there is a whole host of things that we can do in terms of insurance reform that doesn't ultimately end up creating a public option and really sucking all the life out of the system.
On the independent line, Scott joins us from St. Augustine, Florida. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. Hey, Peter, I was wondering, will you be willing to give up your public congressional plan to go on to a private plan with an insurance company? I know you represent the insurance companies, and maybe they'll give you a nice deal, but why don't you try representing your constituents, you know, the 70-plus voters out there that want a single-payer system? You don't seem to be listening too well.
Well, I'm listening, with all due respect, I'm listening to the folks in my district. I represent the west and northwest suburbs of Chicago. That's not to say that there is unanimity within that district, but the overwhelming majority of folks that I represent are very, very leery of a public plan. Let me give you an example. I recently held what's known as Congress on Your Corner, which is an event where I just go in and have a conversation with folks at a local grocery store. And this took place in Addison, Illinois, within the past 2 to 3 weeks, and the response against the public plan was overwhelming. I mean, overwhelming. When I had 150 physicians in for the meeting that we talked about a couple of minutes ago, with the overwhelming majority, and I'm talking 97, 98% of the physicians were digging their heels in saying, don't do this to us. It's going to change medicine in the United States. Look, here's the weakness of the public option. The public option is clearly a prelude to a single-payer system. There's not a serious person out there, I don't think, that can really make the argument that a public option will still be a public option. So you've got employers who, if given the option, will pay the 8% tax and shed themselves of all of the burden, maybe 15, 16% of their payroll that they're paying right now, to really get out of the responsibility. So from a cost containment point of view, which is why the Lewin Group says it's going to be a single-payer system. If it's a single-payer system, then what we end up in is a Canadian or a UK model. I mean, right now, in terms of research and development that you and I have been the beneficiaries of from a medical point of view, the MD Anderson Center down in Texas spends more in R&D than they do in Canada. Now think about that. One American medical center spends more and invests more in research and development that you and I benefit from than the entire nation of Canada. Or how about the rates of survivability of cancer? Here in the United States, about a 66% cancer survival rate, according to the Lancet Oncology study, compared, and that's a 5-year study, compared to the UK, which is 20% less than that. I mean, that 20%, I say let's not give it up. Let's not put our citizens at risk for Speaker Pelosi and the plan that she's still not able to disclose.
From Lenexa, Kansas, Jerry's on the Republicans line. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning. Great program. Congressman, I just want to encourage you and the Republicans to be vigorous in your opposition to the ultimate single-pay program. And it seems to me, as I listen to the debate, the folks who have insurance who are in favor of the administration's proposal seem to want to deny their own responsibility in the increasing costs of insurance, because people tend to overuse insurance when they have it, leading to an increase in costs. And healthcare is about the only arena where the individual payer doesn't negotiate their own pricing. When we go to buy a car, we negotiate for it. When we go to buy a home, we negotiate for it. We don't have an insurance company acting as an intermediary. And healthcare is the only place where we don't negotiate our own costs. If we had some sort of a program where we had high deductibles that allowed us to pay for individually our basic healthcare needs, and had catastrophic coverage for everything over that, it seems to me that would, by its very nature, cause healthcare costs to decline, because we'd be bargaining with the healthcare provider for the cost of a filling, the cost of a checkup.
Yeah, Jerry, you raised an interesting point, and it really goes back almost to post-World War II with the wage and price controls that the government imposed after the war. And so two employers start to try and to compete for a new employee. They are not able to offer any more money, but the clever employer came up with the idea in terms of negotiating, hey, I'll pick up your health coverage. Well, what that did was it sort of broke the relationship, the insurance relationship between the insured and the insurance carrier. We don't have this sort of irrational pricing in other aspects of insurance. We don't have this problem in automobile insurance by and large, or casualty insurance, or homeowners coverage, or even life insurance. But for some reason, health insurance has become irrational. The other component that has to be a part of this deal, it seems to me, is that physicians have to be protected from lawsuits that tend to just drive up medical costs and practicing defensive medicine. And the president, with all due respect to him, when he came before the American Medical Association and gave his speech to the House of Delegates, he just struck me as pretty dismissive of physicians' complaints and concerns